Welcome to the One Player Podcast, the show on solitaire board games. I'm your host, Albert, and this is episode 346.
Young lady, this is a most inopportune time.
Hey,
I don't
Julius.
know if you're going to know that reference.
No, but it's never an opportune time to talk about solo games.
That is true.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I'm tapping on my old Disney history, a reference to The Great Mouse Detective, a movie
Oh,
nearly
I
as old
never
as
saw
I
that
am.
one. Okay, yeah, I never saw that one.
Oh, it's worth seeing. You actually should.
Okay.
Go watch it with your kid.
They're kind of too old for that. My
That's a
youngest
shame.
is 16. Yeah, he doesn't want to watch Disney.
Oh,
Um,
my 14-year-old still watches Disney.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he doesn't like movies that get very dramatic either, that intense and scary. He's never like that at all. But anyway, we digress. As Julius hinted, today's topic is about games with animal detectives. Today it is the Animals of Baker Street, a a crime fighting thriller type game where you're solving mysteries as animals. You're animals, which is that's a nice twist. And I'm going to say who it's by if I see the name here. Dave Neal and Clementine Beauvais, and the art is
Yeah, I
by
was
Baboon.
I was going to let you go ahead and pronounce all those names.
Yeah, it's close enough. I hope. I apologize if I'm not. The artist has only one name. Apparently, he's done other board games, so maybe he's a known artist. I didn't recognize the name at all, and the stuff art doesn't look specifically familiar to me.
But I hear they have a lot of puns in the game.
I did not notice any. I hope not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did they just
Oh,
all
that's a
like fly
shame.
over my head? There is some humor and there's jokes in it. There's there's one part that made me laugh where they have some paper and it has some important message something. Oh, at the beginning, the they're gathered in a group and one of them is telling stories from a book to the other animals, and then it says at the end of that. I'm sorry for the little mini spoiler here, but the person telling the stories can't actually read, so she just kind of ate the paper instead. She made up the story, which is so silly. It's such a silly little. It's a cute little game, but it's also a little dark. My notes. So let's talk about the components as usual. I said this is a mystery game. You're solving crimes, and you're playing as animals. The game.
So
Mhm.
this is primarily an experience type game. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's an experience type game. You're gonna play through it once because you're gonna solve the cases, and if you come back and do it, you know exactly kind of what to do. So it's not really replayable. It brings six adventures plus a an introductory adventure, a prequel sort of, to kind of show you how the game works before you get into the real game. So components. It brings a board. It's a nice board with a picture of Baker Street and different locations on Baker Street that you could visit. The There's a few circles on the board, about 10 or 12 of them. There are different places on the board that you could go to. And then there's also pictures of that area around it. So it's a giant, like a 3D perspective map of the board. If you flip the board over, it's the same scene, but now at nighttime. And all the same locations are visitable,
Thus a little dark.
but it's a little different. Yes, so that's some of the darkness. But no, the story actually gets pretty dark. The What else is the components? The board. There's cards. A lot of cards. There's like almost 300 cards in the box. Four of them are character cards. There's four playable characters in the game, and this game is for 1 to 4 players. If you're playing with 4 players, each person gets one of the four characters. If you're playing with fewer than four, you divide those characters amongst everybody because you need them all. Each of the characters is a different animal. There's a frog, a little bird, a tarantula, and a chipmunk, I think. And they have a picture of the animal in the front and some information about them and like what they're really good at. The frog, for example, it tells you is really good at convincing others to do stuff and a good listener. And the spider is very strong and can make webs. And all that is actually information that's important because as you're playing, that is basically what the abilities they're good at. And as you're solving mysteries, you got to choose which character you're going to use for any specific interaction you're doing, and choosing the right character is important. and you base it off that text description. The back of the card has the same picture of the animal, but now there, instead of the text along the top, is the bottom half of a number of magnifying glasses. You can align these up with other cards where you see the top half along the bottom edge of those cards. The Besides the player cards, there's a clock card just to keep tokens on it. There's a rules reference card which you'll need once at most, and there's decks for every adventure. 6 adventures plus the prequel I mentioned. The decks have location cards. They have cards that are numbered. The amount of these numbered cards varies based on which scenario you're playing. Also, sometimes if there's time tokens in the game, if you're out of time, you will then have to flip over the last card. I think it's called the event card, and it'll tell you some information. And then you may need to flip over to the night board, so there's going to be more cards for that backside. Maybe replacing some of the locations that were in the front because the nighttime things are a little different. So there's a lot of cards. When you're playing the game, I'm gonna say you're using about 1/6 of the cards, but that varies because some adventures use a lot more than others.
You'll use all the cards over the course of all the adventures, though.
Yes, you would use all the cards over the entire course of the game. There is, of course, the rule book. There is another book, which is the book of the adventures. You're gonna When you start playing the game, you're gonna read through the introduction of that adventure, and then begin playing the game on the board. When you solve it, you will then read the end of the adventure to get a little bit of summary of how it went and all that. And then there is the character pawn, which is it's a cute little token. It's a wooden disc with four figures on it, one of each of the heroes. They all sit on the same pawn together because you always go to all the locations together as a group. You never split up at all.
Yeah, this was a very interesting choice just in terms of how that one looks.
Yeah, it's cute. I like how they're all sort of crowded, and there's a little bit of depth to it because the one of the characters in the front and the other ones are behind them. Sort of spread out behind so you can see them. And it's a neat touch. It's not at all necessary. This could just been a cardboard token or a pawn that you used. Using that cute little 3D thing, adds a little bit to the game.
Do you find it's annoying to handle since it's all in pieces like that?
Not at all. Once I've put it together, it just stays together, and there's plenty of space for that in the box.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it works out great. I thought it was gonna be a little fiddly, not at all. And that's it for the components. So there's not a whole lot to the game. It's not a huge box. The cards, I should say, are larger than normal size cards. They're not tall like tarot cards, so sort of the same dimensions of normal playing card, just bigger. I'm not sure how much bigger, but bigger. The That was it for the components, huh? Um, okay, so thematically, this game it's a Sherlock Holmes game. You The story is that Sherlock Holmes has his dog Toby, and Toby is an older dog now. When he was younger, he used to always go on all the adventures of Sherlock and help him out and all that. Now he's kind of gotten old, and he really can't adventure himself anymore. So he got the smart idea of getting four of his friends to learn how to be detectives and help solve crimes for him. And you're playing those four friends because it's all story based game. It's very thematic. You know, it talks about Toby, and you kind of build a little bit of a bond with that character and with the different characters you play. They each have their own personality. So I would say it's very very thematic. All that comes through in the gameplay and in the story. Not much there. Rules. Oh gosh, there's not a whole lot to this game in terms of rules. It's a very thin book, and I think it's one of the ones that say you don't even need to read it necessarily. You could go ahead and play the introductory game first and use just the reference sheet. But it's such a thin book anyway, you may as well just read it. It's a very very simple game,
Aw.
and I'll go. Let's jump into the gameplay then because there's not a whole lot to that. The Let me say it's clear and well written. I had no problems whatever with the book. The In the back of the book there are references for some of the one of either the rule book or the adventure book. I forget which is which. One of them has a picture of all the characters. The other one has a picture of all the locations, so you could quickly identify them if you needed to pass that around so people could see them and check the names out. So it works. Not every single character is shown in the back, but most of all the important ones. There are some that don't come up every single game, so they just not needed as much in the back. Yeah, it's all fine. So gameplay. When you set up the game, you're gonna pick the adventure you're gonna play. You're gonna do these in order, going from the first to the last. And you're gonna want to do it that way because it's pretty much a campaign. Stuff that happens early on may come back later on in terms of the story. The You're gonna get the board out. The choose your adventure. The first cards can tell you how to set it up, whether you're starting in the daytime or the nighttime. How many time tokens you're going to use? I did forget to mention there's some tokens. There's time tokens and
I think
locked
you
room
mentioned those.
tokens. Did I? Okay. There's also locked room tokens. Some adventures don't use a room, or maybe for the first half or the second half of the scenario, they may say these locations are just out of it. They don't play into this story at all. So you just put the little markers on the board to remind you not to bother going there.
Oh, so it's not like you have to unlock it to be able to go there. It's just a don't
It's
go here because
just
it's not worth
it
it.
doesn't apply this game. Nope. It's
Oh, I
locked.
thought those would
Don't
mean
worry
that
about it.
it's some goal to get through those padlocks.
No, no, not at all.
Oh,
It is not that complex a game. You're gonna like I said, you're gonna set up your board. You're gonna put the dish out however many time tokens it tells you to do. You're gonna lock in everything to get locked. You're gonna spread out all the location cards, and then you're ready to play. You're also gonna get the the numbered cards. You can set that stack somewhere handy. Then you go ahead and read your introduction, and now you're ready to play. Start exploring and adventuring. Based on what you read, you're gonna say, "Oh, I need to visit certain locations. Maybe Sherlock's room, or maybe the warren where the rabbit lives, or maybe I want to go talk to the horse that lives on the street, the one that pulls a carriage. Whatever makes sense based on the story." You go to that location and you take one of your time tokens and you put it on the board to mark it, and then you get the card for that location. You flip it over and you read the back, and it's going to have some sort of narrative. Sometimes, and usually actually, they'll also have magnifying glasses at the bottom. You read stuff, and I may make it up something here. Let's say there's an adventure where someone is stuck in a drawer and you need to open it. So you've read this, and now who's going to help you open the drawer? Probably, probably the strong spider, because she's really strong. She may be able to open the drawer. Maybe the frog can't, and he's not that strong. So you get your spider card. You get the card for the location that has a magnifying glass on the bottom, and then you line them up. There's little arrows telling you how to line them up. If any of the magnifying glass tops line up with any of the spider's magnifying glass bottoms to a number, then you find that card and you draw it. They may instead have a cat claw, which means, oh my gosh, the cat scared you and you leave the location immediately. If you want to come back, you're going to have to spend more time. Or it could also mean you just wasted a time token, in which case you just spend one time token and keep investigating that location if you want.
I'm trying to remember that. Which game is it? The one that we discussed that was essentially like the point and click adventure. That reminds me of that one where you had to take two numbers from the thing you're using and two numbers from the thing that you want to interact with,
Yeah,
and then you
kind of.
look it up
Yep.
in the back and you see what goes into it.
Yeah, kind of like, what is that game called? I have the sequel somewhere here to play.
Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe, yes, that's right. The island of Cantaloupe, right? So yeah, so it's similar to that. You line them up, and if they work great, it's going to give you the number, and you find that number. Generally speaking, what happens is you dig through the deck and you get a card, and it might be a card that is information. You read it, and that might have more magnifying glass bottoms you could use. Or sometimes it replaces the existing location card you just read. It says, okay, this is a new street card. Discard the old one and now put this one in place. And it will probably also have magnifying glasses there to interact with. So that's how you interacted with a location. You basically went there, read it, figured out what you could use to do some investigation, lined up the cards, and if so, maybe probably hopefully made some progress on the story. If not, maybe you've wasted some time. You go somewhere else. You're gonna keep playing this way until you've reached the end of the adventure. Generally, something will tell you, "Congratulations, you have solved the adventure," and in the final card that you discover, or you go and you want to go to another location and you've now run out of time tokens. Oh no, no more time tokens. Flip over the event card and see what it says.
You lose.
You won't ever see that in this game.
Oh,
No, it's not that kind of game.
there's no reason to
There's
have to
no.
push mess with everything in this game.
So what can happen is Actually, I think there was one adventure where you could lose, but generally speaking, most of the adventures, um, you drew the event. One of them, something bad happened in the story, and it made me. When I read this, I was like, "Oh, that's sad. I kind of wish that hadn't happened. I wish I hadn't run out of time." And it says, now keep playing without time. Okay, so just keep playing. Ignore the time markers. Most of them, from what I saw at the end, say just keep playing without time. A couple times it said add time, add 5 time counters and try again, start over from a certain point. But never that I can think of was a you lose, other than a couple cases where possibly I didn't lose, but I had to then make a choice based on all the information I had figured out. I had to pick from one of 4 cards, and if I picked the right one, I won. I'm not sure what happened if I picked the wrong ones. I have a feeling it would tell me to try again based on the other ones that I played. Honestly,
I can't believe you didn't look.
it never occurred to me. I was playing with my family that time. That was one of the first ones we played, actually. So, so I mean, it's a very friendly game, and you're not going to lose it. It's a great game for younger audiences. And I think the age range is 10 plus on this game, which is not that young, but it is intended. It feels like for audiences that are going to want to not lose and want to keep playing. It feels like it's meant for, I don't know, like 7-year-old kids that if they lose, they get upset. But there's a lot of reading in this, so it really wouldn't work for a 7-year-old. The the adventure. Okay, so that was the summary of the gameplay. How long have we been recording this? 20 minutes almost. So it's a quick game to talk about.
Yeah, especially I want to hear what your thoughts on the story is too.
The stories, well, so they were cute. They were fun because you're animals and you're anthropomorphic and whatnot, and you're meeting other animals. But it got very dark, actually. It got surprisingly dark, I thought, which is why I think the age range is 10 plus. There's stuff in here that that I read and is like, oh, I didn't like that kind. That didn't make me feel good inside. So it was interesting though, and I'm glad
Interesting.
to have played through it. But yeah, it was dark. It was darker than expected. Absolutely. I don't want to do any spoilers, so I don't really want to tell listeners what things I found dark specifically. But I will say that there were occasions of animals dying, for example, and animals being hurt. So there we go. The puzzles, I generally did not find them too hard. Sometimes I did find that I'd get stuck. Maybe I had missed an information or I forgot a clue that I had seen earlier. And and so when I went to a certain location to investigate, I messed up because I forgot to use maybe a piece of information I'd found. Or or when I tried to use my different characters, I forgot to use one or I used it and didn't line it up correctly. The way the cards line up is you put the top of the one card to the bottom of the other card, and on the right edge they have a very, very thin arrow, and you just need that to line up. And if that when those two line up, and you look at the picture of the magnifying glasses, they're they're narrow. I'm gonna say the like 3 millimeter wide, 2 millimeter wide magnifying glass, right? But the way it's set up, there's space such that there could be magnifying glass all the way across completely. I don't know if I make that clear. So sometimes you look at it and you're not 100% sure if it lined up or not. You kind of got to look at it a little extra carefully just to make sure. And because it was off by one. So because of that, if you're doing it like I was holding them up sometimes to line them up, holding them up, there's a good chance you might mess up and miss the fact that it actually was correct. So it's a little bit fiddly. I mean, it's not bad. I like going around the board and investigating. I love that it's free form and it's like, where should I go next? I got a few pieces of information. I could go visit the rabbits. I could go up to the tree where the squirrel lives. I could go talk to the horse or the rats, and all these seems like really good ideas right now. I want to do them all. I don't actually have enough time to do all of them. So the choices got kind of interesting that way. And and sometimes I felt like, man, I really want to go do all this stuff, and I can't because I'm running out of time. I mentioned time doesn't matter because you're gonna be told if you run out of time, just keep playing without it. But that's not exactly true. I did mention if you run out of time, sometimes the card says flip the board over and reset it up with the other side and keep going. So I may want to investigate 5 or 6 things, and if I run out of time, I will now flip the board over, switch out some of the cards that have been played, the location cards and stuff, and now the story progresses sort of from the next scene. So things can change a little bit, but getting to the end of the game, you're not gonna ever run out of time and be told you lost. Start over and try again. I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Which again turns it very much into an experience game, and it's going to be rated not on the difficulty of it, but on the enjoyment you get from the experience.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the story. It was a nice story. It was cute. It was fun playing through that. And to, wow, just bit my lip, my my cheek. Some of the sometimes they add different types of puzzles that were unexpected. There's a couple times where there's fight scenes and you have to do things in the correct order. And it'll say like, okay, take card number 5. Now card number 5 says, okay, now which of the heroes do you need to use first? And it'll give you some text that kind of gives you a hint of which one to use. And if you get it correctly, it says now take card number 6 because you got 5 right. And 6 says, okay, now what do you do next? Now, based on what you did, which hero should be the next one? And it's a sequence of maybe 4 or 5 steps that you want to do in the correct order. And if you mess up, it may have you go back to the beginning and try it again through the 4 or 5 until you get the whole sequence correct. And I found those kind of interesting. The last game I played, it was actually kind of exciting. I noticed that my adrenaline was up a little bit from playing through that last fight scene, which was surprising because the way it's sort of a slow going from card to card kind of thing. I thought that was interesting. The game actually reminds me a lot of a choose your own adventure, I think,
Right.
in the way you're going through and you're reading the story and you're making choices, but they're not super deep, but you're making choices. However, unlike a choose your own adventure, here you have a lot more choice of where to go and more agency and what order you do things. And you're not gonna get to go to every single location. So you got to choose wisely. So you could
I
see
feel
that.
like that's true of many choose your own adventures too. I guess maybe at one point in time we'll have to start reviewing our choose your own adventures.
Oh gosh, yeah, I haven't played those in years. They've reprinted them though. You know
What?
that?
Really?
Yeah, yeah. My game store has like 8 or 10 of them now. They're all brand new that just come out recently. They Yeah, they were at a Gamma this year. My friend brought me back a Choose Your Own Adventure sticker for my car. Looks great. Nice red logo with a Choose Your Own Adventure text on it. Anyway, this feels like that sort of in that you're reading and then making a choice and then reading more. However, you have a lot more liberty of where you're going to go. And that you generally have in Choose Your Own Adventures, you generally have what, 2, maybe 3 choices, sometimes as much as 5. Here, you could choose from the whole board which location you go and in which order. Which is it's different. It's nice. Yeah, I mean that's the game. I Would I buy this to play solo? I don't think I would. I don't think it was really for me. It was, I think, other than it was kind of dark, I think it's a cozy game. I've always struggled with the term cozy. I'm not sure what a cozy game really is. But having played this, I think this felt cozy in that, and maybe it's because when I'm playing, I'm generally trying to play to win. This is a game that you're going to play for the story. It's not really going to matter whether you win or lose. You're not really going to worry how you do. You're just going to play to enjoy the story and play with the little thing and move things around the board. So yeah, so that's the kind of game it is. It's not going to be replayable because once you've done the story, you kind of would know what to do. Well, if you're trying to win, if you enjoy the story and you want to read it again or play the story again, I guess you absolutely could. But you're going to know where to go and what to do pretty well. What else can I say
I
about this
will.
game?
I will say I don't think that this sounds like a cozy game, but I think that's perhaps because I have an actual definition for cozy game, and maybe
Oh,
we
okay,
just need
please.
to subject you to a deep dive into cozy games for maybe pick that
Mm,
as one of the
popular
topics that we
mechanics.
review for popular mechanics.
Okay,
But
I will.
it
I will fail on
it
that one. I'm gonna. This is the game I'll bring to it 3 times.
I think there's something more to be discussed on cozy, but just moving on past that idea, it's an escape room. It's an experiential game. There's a number of different choose your
Yeah.
own adventure type games. I've even reviewed a couple of them. There is the straight choose your own adventure games.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like that one. The goal of this is to enjoy the story. So, even similar to, the Stuffies game,
Stuff
which
fables.
Stuff Fables or something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
Although Stuff Fables, it has a little bit of a game. Again, with that, you can't yeah, practically you can't lose. It's not designed to be a challenge to win. It's designed to be a challenge to play, to enjoy going through it. So this one, the challenge is to figure it out, to be able to understand how to get through it, to intuit it. But you're going to get it eventually, if only by trial and error and brute forcing a solution. You'll figure it out. The experience has to be, did you enjoy the experience of going through it? Did you want to do that? Not, did the experience challenge you? And what it sounds like you're saying is that you didn't particularly enjoy the experience of it.
I thought it was okay. It wasn't my favorite story. I mean, from the get go, the you know the I want to call it the narrator, but it's not really the narrator, but the main character that's driving everything, Toby the dog. He's an older dog that is now too old to go adventure himself. So already I kind of feel bad for the dog, and it just felt sad. And I that bothered me. So
Albert's old and he sympathizes with the old character.
I'm sentimental. Oh, poor sad old dog. He can't adventure anymore. So that kind of bothered me about it. Um, all the animals are cute. Like I said, there's some funny moments in the game. Uh, it was fun. I did not ever dread going back to play it. I played through the whole game to see
Yeah,
what
but
I
you weren't
thought of the entire
excited
thing.
to play it. It
I
wasn't
was
like a
not
good
excited.
novel where you want to read the next chapter.
No, I don't. I didn't want to read the next chapter. I just finished reading a book and I was happy to be done with that too recently. So maybe I'm just on a slump now of making bad choices or something. But it is not a bad game. Mechanically, it all works. Story is interesting. If you're going to enjoy this type of story, I think it's a fine game. If you're looking for that sort of cozy, but not really a cozy experience,
It's not
then yeah.
called cozy. It's called experiential.
If
It's
you're
a
if you're looking
narrative.
for,
It's a narrative adventure.
yes, it's a narrative adventure. If you're looking for a game where you want deep story or complex puzzles, this is not it. Really, if
It's a
if, if you're
comedic
looking for
narrative
something,
adventure.
yeah, it's a
It's
narrative.
a
But
comedic
if
narrative adventure.
it is, if you wanted a heavier version, you could get what is it, Baker Street 221 Baker. What is no, not that one. What's
Sherlock
Sherlock Holmes
Holmes.
Consulting Detective? Yes, consulting detective. That one is definitely. I played that one once. That was definitely deeper, more complicated, and similar. Where you now have read the introduction and now you've got a map to choose where to go. But this was even more open ended, right? That's neat.
And that's another narrative adventure that you have to go through. It's a puzzle solving narrative adventure in that one again. That
Yes,
one
and they're just
has a little
deeper.
bit more difficulty to it, but yeah.
Yes, very. I would say pretty similar, but yes, that one has more complex puzzles and more to it. Way more to it. Just the fact that it has like a map or a map and well, it's newspaper and you can read the newspaper and there's different stories in there that may or may not matter to some of the adventures. That's such a neat game. That game got talked about a lifetime ago in this podcast, and maybe
We did
it'd be
talk
neat
about
to
it,
talk
and I
about it.
remember my comments on it.
Yeah, okay. I don't remember talking about. I thought I talked about it before you joined, but I don't remember.
No, we talked about it after.
Okay, it's a neat game. Anyway, there's a Cthulhu one too that I'd like to play someday. A new one that came
One
out.
day.
Anyway, that's we're not talking about those. We're talking about Sherlock. No, the Animals of Baker
Animals of
Street.
Baker Street.
I found it fun playing with my family. My family did not find it fun.
That's weird.
Yeah, I feel like I got dissed there. Maybe I don't know,
That is unexpected.
but yeah, I enjoyed it more with them and like trying to decide where should we go next and that. I enjoyed it more multiplayer than solo. Anyway, Animals of Baker Street. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, I believe that that's about all we have. It hasn't quite been champagne and caviar, but thanks to the miserable second-rate detective Basil of Baker Street, I believe we've solved this case.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thanks for listening. We love feedback, so we love hearing from you. You can reach me at julius@oneplayerpodcast.com or JLBird on BGG, and Albert can be reached at albert@oneplayerpodcast.com or Fractalune on BGG. Our website is oneplayerpodcast.com with the number 1, and we're also on Twitter at oneplayerpodcast. The intro music is copyright Angus, can be found at jamendo.com. The transition music is copyright by Dan Elduce Pancaldi, whose page is at donpancaldi.com. The One Player Podcast is protected under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Thanks for listening.